Amy Guthrie, welcome to the LYHL podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you here. I can remember back in my mind, first time sitting down to coffee with you, and I just really enjoyed uh, just sharing a bit about our life experience, and I found it very enriching, and it meant a lot to me. So I'm so excited to have you here. We know each other from a faith community that we're part of in the Los Angeles area. And I'm just so glad to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Well, let's get right into it. So, Amy, how would you describe your work and vocation?
It's interesting.
Haha.
Not traditional. Um, so for the
Cool.
past 3 years, I think, I kind of lose track of time. I've been an interior designer, developing my own company, my own studio, working with clients in the LA area. And then also, my husband and I have a private psychotherapy practice that we run. And just recently, I've started working on my coaching credential and integrating coaching within the practice. And I also just recently have been trained as a what is called a partner trauma specialist.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's within the coaching community. Um, and under the trauma umbrella, the trauma model, working with partners of infidelity and sex addiction. So
Mm,
it's a newer part of my coaching journey, and really excited to get into that field more with partners.
amazing. That is intriguing to me, like you said, non-traditional. So could you share some of what led you to interior design? What led you into coaching? Because your husband is a therapist. Is that right?
Yes. So, one second. Just having a little issue with my headphones. Um, he is a psychologist, clinical psychologist,
Mm-hmm.
and we started our own private practice about 3 years ago. And we've been transitioning that private practice into hopefully a full-time practice in 2025. Yeah. So very exciting. And he works mostly with he works a lot with trauma. The majority of his practice is sex addiction or problematic sexual behavior. So works with a lot of infidelity, couples
Mm,
therapy, individual therapy, and he also specializes in EMDR with trauma work and hypnosis.
mm,
So the dream has been that I can partner with him
mm-hmm.
on some cases and with some clients, which is why I started working on my coaching credential so that I could do that. So I'm more focused on the partner side of things with with possibly with a couple. It could just be a partner that wants
Mm-hmm.
help, resources. Um, so I'm working on the partner side of things within the practice.
Mm-hmm. And I would be making assumptions to say that I fully understood that. So the partner is like, so there's somebody that has the individual that is struggling with the sexual addiction, or
Mm-hmm.
is the person cheating on then the partner is the one is kind of the being injured by well, I don't know.
Yep.
I guess they're
Yep.
both being injured, but that is kind of more the victim, or
Mm-hmm.
why am I
Mm-hmm.
struggling so much with the language? But you're saying it's the person that's in the romantic or the committed relationship with the individual. So you're acting as a support in that coupling.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
And the language is hard around it because it
Uh-huh.
is kind of a newer, the partner trauma model is a newer term. For many,
Mm-hmm.
many years, it was considered to be a co-addict or a codependent relationship, meaning that the
Right.
partner was
Mm,
kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of helping the addict in their addiction, which is not was not helpful, as a
mm-hmm.
lot of our, you know, psychology and treatment has evolved and developed over the years. This is an area that has really evolved, I would say, over the last 10 to 20 years, maybe 10 to 15 years. It's kind of a newer idea of
Yeah.
therapy when it comes to infidelity and sex addiction. And the co-addiction model was so harmful to partners. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
knew that this was going on. They were were kind of helping the addict in their addiction.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Mm-hmm.
very harmful to partners. So the partner trauma model is basically acknowledging the part to the partner to say, you didn't know this was going on, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of trauma that comes with that. And I know trauma is a word nowadays that is used a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But it truly is a trauma to the person. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Yeah, I think what's where it's kind of landing for me is I kind of seek to make sense of it because for me that's even this is like a newer concept or
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds really helpful. I'm also when you talk about trauma, I think my experience of trauma in my life or in people that I know is a lot of times people who are the victim or traumatized aren't really aware that they are in a relationship that they are. They're not aware of
Mm-hmm.
the dynamic. They're not, and it's only through like an emerging, right? That and sometimes that comes through distancing, right? That you're like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then getting exposure to different relational dynamics, getting exposure to, and then reflecting back and saying like, wow, that okay. Whereas it was so normalized, it was what you knew or you
Mm-hmm.
were or because a lot of times well in any kind of relationships there's trust, right? And so if that there's not an awareness maybe that the trust is being broken or words
Mm-hmm.
like trust or safety or love things that these definitions can evolve in our mind as we get a different perspective, which I've personally found really important in things that I've needed to heal from.
Mm-hmm.
And I still consider myself in process with a number of these things where, oh, I didn't realize I was a part of something that was so unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not, of course, that's just me trying to um, uh, identify with
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying. It makes sense in that way. I don't know if you could reflect back if that for anybody that's listening that um, maybe here's a question to frame it like the reflecting like if somebody is curious about what you're saying, maybe it's kind of like stirring something up in them. What would be like who would be the person that comes to see you or somebody in like what would be the benefit to them? What would be the needs that that person would have that would make a good relationship between um, yeah, a partner and a
Mm-hmm.
coach?
Yeah, that's a really good question. A lot of times people will come to me in crisis.
Mm,
So, um, in the sex addiction world, we call it discovery, after
mhm,
discovery, when um, they've either found something, come across it. The majority of the time, it's a partner that uncovers something, like a weird text or a photo or, something seems off, a receipt, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's different for everybody has a different experience, but it's usually people seeking help after a traumatic event or a discovery. So they're in crisis. So my my hope and my desire when they're coming to me for coaching is to help level out the crisis, to help them determine a plan for safety. Initially there's phases of crisis is what we call it,
Mm-hmm.
or um so coming up with a safety plan,
Mm-hmm.
does the addict need to move out? Does the partner need to move out? What needs to happen practically in the beginning
Mm-hmm.
stages? And then what do they need? What do they need um, to feel safe, to um, just get through daily life? If you have
Mm-hmm.
kids at home or you're single, you still have to feed yourself or feed somebody else, simple things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're coming to me in crisis, that's the
Mm-hmm.
first phase or whatever that we work on is stabilizing, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and oftentimes in situations like that, resources have been very focused to the addict because they're the one kind of causing the crisis. So all the resources go to them. What do they need, to get better? And then oftentimes the partner is kind of left to figure things out on their own. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, in certain relationships, let's say it's a married partner relationship, and maybe the partner, the wife, the husband, whatever, stays at home and doesn't have resources. Like they're relying on somebody else. And there's that sense of financial security. And, um, it's just like every little aspect of life, just helping them walk through those crisis periods. So that's kind of the beginning period. And then the
Mm-hmm.
next phase is, their healing journey. What do they need? Um, does it end? Does the relationship end in divorce, or is there restitution and healing? And so it's a process that,
Mm-hmm.
as a coach, I walk through them with
Mm-hmm.
that. Now, I am a coach. I'm not a therapist. So if they need other resources along the way, then I partner with other people to get them the resources that they need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Y- Thank you for that. Yeah, that's like I do have like that little question in my mind because it's only been recently for me that I even uh, really realized. I think it seems to be like an evolution in coaching where there are coaching that are getting closer and closer in mental health, like closer adjacent
Mm-hmm,
to,
mm-hmm,
um, yeah, like how a therapist would practice. What would be, and this can be brief, but what would be some things like where somebody, oh, well, I think a coach would be appropriate
mm-hmm,
versus like, oh,
mm-hmm.
I think a therapist might be a bit better suited for you, or maybe
Yeah.
part of that you'll address this part in therapy and we can address this part in coaching.
Yeah, I will just add in there. I know you didn't ask this,
Bring it.
but
Yes, yes.
I will say that I was so skeptical of coaching for so long. Like when I heard of
Mm,
people saying that they were, the common term that's thrown around is life coach. And when I would hear that, I would kind of be like, what does that even mean? Like,
yeah.
what are they even talking about? Um, and then when I started experiencing it for myself and seeing how, the difference, I think, from my definition between coaching and therapy is a life coach kind of comes beside you and helps guide you in self reflection. And the client is truly leading the course of coaching. Um, Whereas therapy, the therapist will sometimes tell you what to do or guide you on what needs to change or stuff like that. Coaching really tries to stay within the wheelhouse of, we don't tell you what to do. We help you uncover um,
Mm,
what is best for you
Mm-hmm.
through
Mm-hmm.
thoughtful questions and guiding that way. Um, but I would say, my favorite type of coaching relationship is when I can work alongside of a therapist
Mm.
and the client has given me permission, signed off, signed a waiver saying that I can talk with their therapist. And it is a beautiful therapeutic
Mm.
process where we're working together.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of therapists are very not accepting of coaches because it is a very difference in training.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches
Mm-hmm.
don't have the training that therapists have, but most coaches have received a good amount of training too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for that. Um, and this was my problem. I kind of asked two questions at once back, but I would love to hear more about like interior design and what led you to that? Why is that so important to you? Yeah, tell me more
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I did kind of skip over that. I went down a rabbit hole.
No, I mean, I want to know it all. Yeah.
So I was in corporate world for many years. I worked for one organization for 10 years and was laid off during COVID.
Hmm.
And I remember getting off the Zoom call with HR and my CEO and just being stunned because I'd worked with this company for so long. And I literally closed the Zoom and I was like, okay, I guess this is what it was going to take for me to pursue what I really want to pursue. Like, I
Mm.
literally had that thought right after the call.
Wow. Wow.
And there was a little bit of fear,
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, I just lost my job. I had two kids in college at the time, so the paycheck was a great thing.
Yeah.
Nice steady
We like
paycheck.
the paychecks. We like
It
the
was a
paychecks.
gift.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to be very honest, I was staying in that position because I had two kids in college and I was getting a good paycheck and had great health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked my job and who I worked with, but I was struggling a little bit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not it was not my passion. It was
Mm-hmm.
not There was a lot of internal turmoil and a lot of just kind of checking the boxes. I'm doing my
Yeah.
job and I was doing
Yeah.
it well, in my opinion, but I wasn't passionate about it. So I took a couple of months off because it was the first time I think I hadn't worked in some capacity in the mix of raising children and working since I was probably 15 or 16. So
Yikes. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Well deserved. You probably should have taken a couple of years.
Maybe so.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did. I took a couple of months just to kind of figure it out. And
Mm,
we actually had a family vacation plan for 2 weeks because it was like one of those COVID things where it was like vacation got canceled. And then
hmm.
so we ended up going away for 2 weeks. And in my head, I was like, should we be going on this vacation? Because I just lost my job. And I was like, no, we need to go.
Hmm.
So uh, I remember one of my kids saying to me, well, mom, I guess you can finally start doing design. And I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay, so here it is. I do have this opportunity. And um, I got a decent severance package that kind of padded the opportunity and created that perfect space for
Hmm.
trying to do something that I had always wanted to do. So
Mm.
that's how I got started in design. And just pushing away those thoughts of I don't have the formal training, I can't do this. So yeah, and here we are 3 years later.
Love it. Love it. Oh. And by the way, that couch behind you is really cool.
Thank
Speaking
you.
of interior design, I was like, what is this like? I don't even know. I'm gonna call it scalloped. I don't know. It doesn't
Yeah, you
seem,
got it.
but yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me, Amy, what do you think it means to live your healthiest life?
Mm, Such a good question. You know, I think it is living into your dreams, taking risk,
Mm.
doing a whole lot of, I didn't ask you before this, but about bleeping language, but
Go for it. Yeah.
there's just no other word for it, but doing it just really fucking hard work. It's
Mm.
just, yeah, I think I lost kind of ask that question again because I got mixed up in
Yeah.
the pausing for the language.
Yeah, I know, right? You want to do it right. Yeah. What do you think it means to live your healthiest life, Amy?
Yeah, I think pursuing your dreams, taking risk, pushing those negative thoughts
Mm.
away that sometimes scare you from doing the thing that's best for you or right for you. And then other people's voices, other people's thoughts and
Mm.
opinions. I think that really gets in the way of
Hmm.
living your best and healthiest life.
Wow. Cool. You just put it out there. Okay, we got a list. We got a list here. I did my best to take notes here. Um, so we've talked about dreams, so pursuing your dreams. Yeah, and what do dreams mean to you?
Hmm. I think dreams are those inside thoughts that sometimes you're afraid to say to other
Mm,
people,
mm,
but that you think about often, or it's like that if I could wave my magic wand, this is what I would want to do, or this is where I would want to
mm-hmm,
be, or this is
mm-hmm,
what,
mm-hmm,
yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems right. Seems like maybe my thought, and we can have a conversation about this, whether that lands with you or you view it differently. I feel like a lot of times when we say dreams, we think big things.
Mhm.
Like what's your work? What does your family structure look like? Uh, where's your home? But it seems to me as I kind of am on this journey of life and trying to do it well and live it healthily and like meaningfully, like I think the dreams are in the details too of like and in some ways like the little things are somehow almost harder than the big things and they could be related. I think they probably are. And it seems like the little things are like the pathway to the bigger things. Like if um so it could just be I don't even know like what are little things like the coffee you drink or the tea that you
Mhm.
drink.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like I think I've thought of, oh, when I have sufficient budget, like this is the quality of tea that I want to buy, right? But
Yeah,
until
yeah.
then, I'm gonna buy this 100 pack or whatever, and it's reasonable. But at some point, like I want to do this, or I want, like a couch that this is this color, or I want like that
Mhm.
really cozy shirt, that's just like, oh, when the fall temperature starts to drop, that I can. And those were all material things, but it could be,
Mhm.
that I'll be able to rest out in the sun,
Mhm.
in the middle of the day for like a
Mhm.
period of time, or that I will uh, have hugs or embraces or cuddles, like these kind of, and I think I'm talking more than I intended to, but to me, it seems like these, for me, are
Mhm.
harder, and it's been an evolving thing for me to even be able because dreams are related to knowing what you want, I think. And that's been an
Mm-hmm.
emerging thing for me to even know. So there was a question implied there. If you're not sure what that was, I think it's like, are our dreams just these big things, or are dreams also these smaller things? Is there some kind of relationship between them, in your opinion, in
Mm.
your experience?
Yeah, I think you said it really well. I think dreams can be both. I think, and I almost think with you saying that, like the little dreams are maybe even bigger than we give credit to them. They're they're almost the first thing that came to my mind was they're the glue. They're the glue
Hmm.
of
Yeah.
the bigger dream. But they
Hmm.
also seem, the other thought that came to my mind was I think as women and also women with our similar backgrounds,
Hmm.
we were not allowed to dream, even in the
Yeah.
small ways.
Yeah.
It was all about what can we do for others,
Yeah.
not what tea can I buy for myself. That would have been selfish. And it's
Correct.
not.
Right.
And so I think it's rewiring our thinking,
Hmm.
rewiring what is good for me, what is good for Amy, what is my dream, not what is my dream for my family with my husband. It's not selfish for me to dream on my own. They're a piece of that, but I also have dreams for myself, and that is still evolving in
Yeah.
me.
Hmm.
And because I will default back to that, what is our dream? Meaning, what
Hmm.
is my dream with my husband? And our
Hmm.
dreams, they go in the same direction, but they're
Hmm.
separate for each of us too.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and being okay with that and enjoying it. I think that's the other piece. Enjoying our dreams. We don't give a lot of
Hmm.
enjoyment to that, I guess, or allow ourselves to enjoy it. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. Because I think that is, oh gosh, I'm just kind of feeling right now, and that's been an evolution where I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh,
Yeah.
wait, I'm not thinking. I think I'm feeling. Oh, there's not really words with that. So I'm like feeling a connection with that I think, yeah, this feeling good. And I think that's where some of my examples of like texture, or like, oh, I want, a tea that, oh, you can have a tea that's actually smooth. Like, what does that even mean? Or I can, um, so yeah, like this knowing what I want, knowing what I enjoy, because I think sometimes the dreams that we're given, and I've been thinking about the US a lot recently, and I've been thinking about the
Mm-hmm.
world a lot, the American
Mm-hmm.
dream. Um, and I think sometimes these big dreams are actually dreams that were handed to us that are kind of
Mm-hmm.
scripts. And I'm not being I don't mean to, I'm painting, broad brushes. I don't mean to, that's not all inclusive, but I think, um, for a lot of people in the US anyway, I think that's we're just kind of, maybe the dream is like the security, or the,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned some things, and I relate to those, and correct me if I'm saying things that don't,
Mm-hmm.
uh, describe you accurately, but like you talked about like the health insurance and the paycheck,
Mm-hmm.
these kind of things, but really inside you're like, ooh, but that's like the dream, right? Because those things give you this, but is that really? And I, just left, um a more, yeah, I'm branching out more on my own too. And this is like, I'm leaving some of these things, like
Mm-hmm.
well, here's your provided health insurance, and here's, yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
paycheck that's going to come every Wednesday, or here's the, um but really like what do you like? I'm thinking it's kind of like a flesh and blood on like the skeleton of the, like what's the emotions that you want to have. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Anything else you want to say about dreams?
I had a thought when you said the American dream. And the
Mhm.
first thought that came to my mind was, wow, what a trap that is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, and there's many, many, yeah, many trapped or
Yeah, yeah. That it's almost the, I think that other aspect of dream is, I hadn't thought about it till now, is how many of our dreams are what we think they should be, not
yeah,
what our dreams are, but
yeah,
the American dream, what people think that we should be hoping for and striving for. Is that really our dream? Is that our, or
yeah.
are some of our dreams what we think they should be? So,
hmm
yeah.
hmm Yeah, yeah, I feel that. Now, so you had the pause and then you swore and you said, part of what it means to live your healthiest life is you said to do the fucking hard work. That's what I wrote down. Is, can you tell me more about that? And you had
Yeah.
to have, use strong language in there. So hopefully, like, what is yeah, there's something that couldn't, yeah. So we can't not talk about this because this is big.
Right, right. Just because I used fuck, we have to.
Yes,
We
yeah.
have to talk about
That's right. That's
it.
right.
um, Man, when I think of that hard work, it's the internal work. It's the
hmm
stuff that has made us who we are today, but might not be the best version of
hmm
ourselves.
hmm
And I look at that old self, for lack of a better word, that I did so much work to kind of evolve from. You know, you're not leaving that old self behind. You're taking some of that good. And I look back on that person and I have such compassion for them. Um, and a lot of the hard work that I have done has kind of created that passion, that softness for them. And the things that they did to get me to here. And they weren't always great things, but they were ways of survival or um, for one, something for me that was a really big part of my old self before I did, and it still creeps in, was control. Just having control of so many aspects of my life. And through a lot of therapy and coaching, that
hmm
piece comes back in. Acknowledging that control in my younger self and my old self was what got me to where I am today, and thanking that either that
hmm
child or that young adult
hmm
um, for getting me here and
hmm
learning from those. And it's hard work because you're looking at a lot of stuff that you've just kind of stuffed in order to get you
hmm
through.
hmm
And so it's that uncovering layer by layer.
hmm
And I specifically for me, I did a year and a half, almost 2 years of EMDR trauma therapy.
hmm
And it was so hard and
hmm
so exhausting.
hmm
And I had a lot of physical responses to what I had been carrying for so long, like years of headaches, years of tension, years of
hmm
TMJ. Is that how you call it? I've even forgotten
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's the jaw. That's where, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
clenching and grinding on my teeth at night and not sleeping well and losing weight and all these things because of so much pain and hurt just buried deep within me. And so the unpeeling of those layers, think of the onion metaphor, the unpeeling of those was so hard. And there were so many times that I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Don't want to do this. But on the other side of it,
hmm
I cannot imagine not walking through all of that. Just
Mm-hmm.
the peace, the calm,
Mm-hmm.
like um, the health that it's brought, literal health. Um, yeah, it's been truly, truly amazing and beautiful. And it's not like you flip the switch and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
It still creeps in. There's still work being done. Um, I still am coached quite frequently. I'm not in therapy right now, but it's there if I need it. And it's something that I think that you not cycle through, but I think it's something that you should always keep open in your life and
Mm-hmm.
always, I think it can always be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I thank you for sharing those things. I think EMDR is something I have just done briefly, and I found it very helpful, um, personally, due to some like I had a very situational kind of context-based thing, so it didn't
Mm-hmm.
require like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of, and it wasn't from my childhood, it was from later, so it didn't quite have.
Mm-hmm.
But what a interesting modality and just very helpful. I found it was able to access things within me um, quite quickly and then practice
Mm-hmm.
some of those new neural connections that you're trying to make to like um, change the associations. Something
Yeah.
that was interesting to me too, you talked about like these physical symptoms of the uh of trauma that you've experienced previously. And I think I don't, I guess, have the words off the top of my brain of, I guess I want to say interesting again, the
Mm-hmm.
emerging knowledge of the connection between those and how that's being so accepted. And as somebody with a background in physical therapy that's been helping people with physical symptoms, because most of the time people aren't coming and saying, I want to move better. I'm hoping for that. Hello, people out there, get a coach that'll help you move better so you can just like have a higher quality of life. But most of the time it's like it's not till pain or whatever symptoms are having are like
Mm-hmm.
really disrupt, like it really has to disrupt lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like people will deal with a lot before they seek help. They'll be, and then like, how long has this been going on? Oh, my shoulder's been hurting for a year. Or, like
Yeah.
just to think,
Yeah.
and you were able to list quite a few things of how that was um, showing up in your life, and I'm very, very interested in that. Like as I go forward in my
Mm-hmm.
healing work of exploring uh, that connection, because some of it is behavioral. You get a headache. There's
Mm-hmm.
tons of reasons why you could get a headache. Maybe you need to
Mm-hmm.
drink some water. Maybe you need to sleep better. Maybe there's food that you're eating that's not the best for your body. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, maybe it's from trauma that you had gone through previously that is still in your body and manifests it in
Mm-hmm.
all these different
Yeah.
ways. Um,
Yeah.
oh, and I'm
So
just taking that in. Go ahead. Yes. I'm taking
no, I
in
don't
what
want
you
to take
shared.
away
Yeah.
from you taking it in.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, I was so skeptical of EMDR. My husband is trained in it. He uses it with his brain injured clients and healing. He uses it with trauma. He uses it with addiction. He's used it for years. And for me, it was so woo woo, for lack of a better word.
Hmm.
I'm such a kind of black and white person. I want to see it and know how it works, and then I can get on board. And so I was like, okay, whatever. He was seeing unbelievable results with it. So a couple of years ago, we were at um, a family event, and there were some family members there. Um, And it was the first time I had been around some of these family members in a very long time. And the morning of this big event, I woke up with an excruciating migraine. Like I didn't know how I was going to get out of bed and get to this event.
Mm,
Um, and I had brought migraine pills with me just as an emergency. I had them, I took them. I wasn't getting better, I was getting worse. It was probably the worst migraine I've ever had in my life,
mm,
and was throwing up. Like it
mhm,
was so bad.
mhm,
So, long story short,
mhm, mhm,
I was able to get it under control enough to go to this event. And that evening, um, I just didn't feel great. The next day, we were flying home and we're on the plane on the way home. And all my husband says to me was, the body keeps the score.
mhm, mhm,
And I was like, it was like a brick hit me of, oh my gosh, I thought I had done so much work up until this point, but yet there was still so much more to be done. So we got home from the trip and I started researching EMDR therapists
mhm,
and started 2 or 3 weeks later because it was
mhm,
like there's something,
mhm,
there are more things so buried within me that I haven't dealt
mhm,
with.
mhm.
So that was the beginning journey.
Yeah.
And it's now knowing all of that, because EMDR work is so much, where is it in your body, you know, where are you feeling it, that sort of thing. There are still moments with certain things that I will start to feel it in my body. And I'm so aware
Mhm,
of it now.
mhm. Yeah.
Sometimes I still will ignore it and then I pay for it.
Yeah.
But
Mhm,
now I see the other side of how amazing I feel.
mhm,
And I will feel it start to creep in and I will start doing like body scans. Okay, what's going on?
mhm,
What am I
mhm,
feeling right now? Am I
mhm.
taking care of myself? Am I drinking water?
Yeah.
Have I eaten
Mhm.
well? Do I need to just take a break from work and sit down and watch TV or read a book, which was something I would have never have done before. I would have just pushed through, pushed through, pushed through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I fully agree with you that the body is so much a part of your healing journey, and
Mhm.
how amazing that you're doing that with coaching. So I, I'll send people your way for that.
That sounds good. Yes. Yes. Sounds really good. Man. Well, and I wanted to keep going through it, but for the
Yeah.
sake of time, we better. I love, you talked about taking risks and the negative thoughts and other people's thoughts, and there's so much we can mine in there. And alas, we'll have to keep it for another
Okay.
conversation, I think. But I think those things are so true. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, Let's talk a little bit about, I like to have the conversation. You're already doing this. You just highlighted that from a few years ago. But let's take it current right now. And what are you learning currently about living your healthiest life?
Mm, and it's amazing. I I turn 50 in April and I
Mm,
feel so young and alive.
hmm. Yeah.
I feel, I honestly feel like I'm in my 20s, but not
Yeah.
having to deal with the stuff of your 20s.
Yeah. Yeah. All that BS. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
Um, I, yeah, it's so hard to communicate that to somebody, and I have to really keep myself in check with my coaching clients, even just wanting them to have this so bad, but you can't want it for somebody
Hmm.
else. That person
Hmm.
has to want it for
Yeah.
themselves and do the
Yeah.
work themselves. So
Mm.
it's beautiful. It truly is beautiful. And the I think the other piece that I mentioned before is just the peace and the calm. I'm not a calm person. I'm not a peaceful person. Um, I have, you know, have moved through life, like one thing to the next, but there's just this settledness, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
within me. That's
Mm-hmm.
just, yeah. And knowing that I have control of my life. Like I'm making the choices. I'm choosing what makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How so what I'm hearing is and I'll maybe try to phrase the questions two ways. I've already started to do that. So we'll see just what I decide to land on first and see if I can keep going.
Love it. I'm
So
here for it.
yeah, so as you're striving to live your healthiest life right now, what I heard is that it's beautiful, and the examples I heard in there were how you feel in your body
Mm-hmm.
and in your spirit, which I don't know. We can talk about
Yeah.
that. That's my
Yeah.
word too, but like kind of in your like your energy. So that's what I heard. So in so the question is, how do you know the life is beautiful? Like how are you experiencing that?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening now that because I also relate you're a few years down the line from me, not far, but I don't want to go back to my 20s. I don't want to go back to my
Mm-hmm.
30s or even, my early 40s, or definitely not a teenager, or, like
No
there's,
thanks.
yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, that there's like this, there's this wisdom so there's knowledge that's turned into wisdom that helps me not make, helps me make better choices. So like on a bigger scale of what you described of, um, like prior versions of yourself, or like trying to become a better version of yourself. So I relate to that. Um, and I think there's lots of paths, right,
Mm-hmm.
to that. And I also identify myself, I would say I'm a beauty seeker. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but tell me more. I'm curious about, like, does that feel right to you that it's, well, I know life is beautiful because I feel it in my body, or
Yeah.
in my spirit, or is it, or tell me how. Yeah, tell us how you're experiencing that and learning that. Like, what
Mm.
does that look like?
You know, it is an internal feeling, but as an interior designer, of course, I want to bring that beauty to the external,
Mm,
to to spaces. And I love the way, again, I guess it goes back to that feeling, but when you're in a room that's just designed so beautifully, or you're in a restaurant that it just gives that feeling of beauty and uniqueness, and the way you feel in those spaces is so, I guess it goes back to that that peace thing that I keep bringing in, but it's like a big cozy blanket, that just kind of
hmm
comes around you and makes you just kind of relax into that space. Um, and that's that piece of interior design and beauty that kind of just make me so excited. Is I love to go into a space that, I guess my dream is that people will go into spaces that I've helped design, and they'll just feel relaxed and at
hmm
home, even if
hmm
it's not their home, and comfort.
hmm
And I guess creating that space and that beauty where people can start peeling back the layers of themselves and be their true selves
Yeah.
because of what that space evokes, if that makes sense.
I have an understanding of that. Like to me, like so space has become increasingly important to me when
Mm-hmm.
like I had things like when I think try to make sense of why it didn't always, I think there were things about scarcity and like
Mm-hmm.
um not minimalism, because there was kind of even a hoarding in there, which is not good in a design
Uh-huh.
space, right? If you just
Yeah.
have too much stuff in there. But there was also like not a buying something like appropriate for the place. It was like hauling all my belongings to like
Yep.
different abodes without curating it to the space
Uh-huh.
or to that time in my life or and there's been a shift for me. And yeah, I mean, I just love, like right now, if I was like out in my living room right now, I would just be, I would love to be sitting on my gold couch or sitting on a different piece of furniture, looking at my
Uh-huh.
gold couch, like as the, light comes in off the white walls with the plants and the wood
Oh,
floor
yeah.
and, these kind of things that I didn't bother to invest in
Mhm.
because I wasn't told they were important. I wasn't
Mm,
shown they were important. And maybe I just hadn't experienced it enough to
mm,
like what you're describing, because I absolutely can go into, and we can all think about it, but I think some people don't think about it a lot or
mhm.
aren't connected enough to just be like, ugh, like this place, like a place with like these fluorescent lights or like a
Uh-huh.
blue kind of
Yeah.
like ugh, like coldness or a um versus a place, yeah, that just makes, and there's places that can also be very minimalistic but feel harsh or minimalistic but
Mhm.
feel like so modern or something that it feels like you can't touch it or you
Yeah.
think of like
Yep.
the person that has like the beautiful I don't know if people do this anymore. I think the generation is kind of dying out maybe, but like as the plastic covered couches, where it's just like
Yep.
like you can, yes, that's our most beautiful room, don't you dare go in there and like mess up the carpeting or like definitely don't sit on the couch versus a
Mhm.
space where yeah you just go into and just like and for me I try to bring a lot of like natural elements in from like
Mhm.
the outside. I have a lot of like pine cones, I even have barks and sticks and rocks and things because one of the spaces that I feel most like is
Mm.
outside, and so I try to bring those same, I try to like replicate that kind of feeling. I'm curious, like what kind of inspires you, like what kind of elements
Oh,
help
yeah, that's
you
good.
do that? Yeah.
Yeah. Lighting is so big.
Yeah.
So
Oh, teach
big.
me, teach me. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't think it's important or don't want to spend the money or there's an overhead light. So why would you need a lamp? But
Hmm.
I think lighting is so important. And I'm talking like soft white, like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
go out and buy a soft white light bulb. Get
Yeah.
rid of
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
just like something simple as that. Um, because it is kind of like, there's so many studies, and I know this is another podcast, but there's so many studies that have gone on with fluorescent lights and just how terrible they are for you. They're harsh. Kids are learning under them in school their whole lives, and it's linked to so many
Hmm.
things that it's not good for
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
So lighting, um,
Hmm.
comfort. I think you can have comfort and good, nice things, and it still be comfortable. And
Hmm.
colors and how
Hmm.
colors play off of one another, and then plants. Just talking
Plants.
about bringing the
Yes. Yeah.
outdoor in, and I know you have a lot of plants too,
Oh, thank
but
you, by the
just
way, for the
ah,
you get, that's right. I will give a public thank you for keeping a number of my plant babies alive on a trip a few years ago. That was
it was
they
an
owe you
honor. It
big
was a
time.
true
Yeah, thank
honor,
you.
true honor. Um, yeah, I mean, just bringing that living stuff in, like you were talking about. Just, I mean, we know it cleans the air. It like there's so
Mhm.
many positive things about it. So yeah, that just
Plants.
touches on it
Yeah.
briefly, but I get so excited about it just talking about
I
it.
know. And I'm like, I put a pin in it and I'm like, okay, like reach out later and ask about like lighting solutions because I feel like lighting is like well, I have a background in photography, a very interest in that. So
Oh
I like,
yeah,
so composition and colors and
uh-huh.
like lighting in that context makes sense. But but again, I haven't in terms of space and like, and
Hmm.
I've never owned. I'm always just living in
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
else's, uh, on somebody else's property. Like the idea of like changing that, but I'm
hmm
there now. Now I'm like, light
yeah,
is like, this room is wonderful during the day and it's terrible at night. Why is it terrible at night?
yeah,
Because like it needs to be changed. I currently have like a fixture that I want to put in like up over here. And then I'm just like
yeah,
stuff that I would never have considered
yeah,
doing in a rental. But now I'm like, no, I need to. This is
yeah.
like this room in particular right here. This is like creative space. I need to. So I'm in the process of dreaming and scheming for that. So I love
That's great.
you're so right. So things that are comfortable, things yeah, you're so right, leading off with lighting.
Yeah. And home, no matter if you're renting or you own, it's your home. So make it your home. There's so many things that you can do as a renter to make your home your home. So
Yeah.
it feels like you and is a reflection of you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
true. It occurred to me, I think another reason why, and this is like why I wouldn't want to go back to my 20s or 30s. Like my home, my bedroom was just it was transactional. It was like
Hmm.
because I was so busy, I couldn't dare slow down.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now my home is like sanctuary, it's a
Yes.
refuge, but I don't think that couldn't happen without like the hard work that you
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
described earlier, like my own hard work of being able to sit quietly, like sit in solitude. Like
Mm.
there's something about that. Like I had to be able to do that. There's an intersection between those and not just be throwing things down real quick and getting off to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Um,
Man, that's another soapbox of mine is our bedrooms because there's so many studies that have been done that you don't sleep as well in a space that is cluttered or is not peaceful. And I think a lot of times we ignore our bedrooms, and it's so important, so
yeah.
important. And my bedroom is so different than the rest of my house. It's a little more minimal, it
Hmm.
is simple, but I go in there at the end of the day and I literally just feel like the stress come off because it's so peaceful and so
Mm-hmm.
cozy and calming. And we need to feel that when we go in our
Yeah.
bedrooms at the end of the day. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The environment, prompts thought, right? Or
Hmm.
and emotions, like it changes whether it's the lighting, well, it's everything's, I guess, in that context, visual, whether
Yeah.
it's lighting or whether it's color or yeah, like spatial arrangements. And that makes sense too. That's a good suggestion. And I'm guessing most people's rooms are cluttered. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
that probably doesn't allow like because I've heard, well, your bedroom should be the place you sleep, and it's problematic
Hmm.
if you're trying
Yeah.
to do other things in there. So what I heard you say, and I'm like, oh yeah, and minimalist, like when you go in there, it's like and you've practiced and you set it up that this is rest time,
Yes.
right? That
Yeah.
there's not going to be reminders of this project or that needs to get done, but you go in here and you're like, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna rest and take a beat.
Yes. Yeah. Don't let weeks of laundry pile up in your bedroom because then what are you going to do? You're going to go in there at the end of the day and you're going to see that and you're going to be like, oh, I
Uh-huh.
can't get anything done. And that's how you're going to bed.
Yes, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
uh not let Jamie hear this. It's me. I'll
Sorry,
get
Jamie.
laundry. I'll because I will, and I'm still learning and growing. Like, and you described this. If I can do a call back to what you said about your body, like you've learned so much, and then you'll do things, and then you're like, oh, shoot, that was
Yep.
too much.
Yep.
And I think for me I'm guessing you're this way too. There's like oh, that's just another learning, like
Yeah.
oh, I wasn't sure in that when I made the decision of what to do. I didn't, and then you're gonna kind of do something different the next time. and then
Mhm.
you'll recalibrate, recalibrate, and as you continue to do that, as you head into your sixth decade, right, that you're gonna
Yeah,
in your
true.
50s, like that you'll probably be like, oh, I don't want to go back to my 40s. Like now I'm like that
Mhm.
much more. So if I connect that to the piles of laundry I create, I have made so much progress with having a less cluttered life, and not just space, but just like creating space in my life, just creating
Yeah.
space in my life. And it's still not enough. There's so much of my self-worth and my ego that are still tied up into things but I'm doing the work. It feels so good and it feels so fucking hard. And
Hmm. Hmm.
so still what will often happen, and this is some neurodivergence things that makes it like hard for me, and it's
Yeah.
always going to kind of be that way, but I'm going to learn strategies and, as time goes on, it'll hopefully be better. But I'll just try to do too many things, not finish one project.
Hmm.
So I'll just be like,
Yeah.
yeah, easy. I can do some laundry in the background while I'm doing all these other things. And then all of a sudden my energy meter goes to zero, or it's
Hmm.
time to connect. And yeah, and then there's the basket of laundry or
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
partially folded, and then it can just be really hard they can just sit there for such a long time. But it does feel so much better. But it's the best solution for me isn't just to push through and do it. I
Hmm.
don't think that's
Hmm.
the best solution for me. The
Yeah.
best solution is actually a little bit of calibration ahead of time, just having
Hmm.
being softer on myself in terms of expectations. But
Yeah.
piles
Well
of
said.
laundry got me. You got me.
Sorry.
Got me. There's none right
Sorry,
now.
not
There's none right
sorry.
now. I know. Yeah, I had a 5 minute lay down in there before we came in, and it was great. There was no and some
Good.
bags that had been sitting there for like months. And I get so much joy from now that like 1 foot little corridor in
Yep.
between like
Yep.
this little, but there's space, then it just feels really darn good.
Yeah.
Feels really darn
Yeah.
good.
It does. There's something to that feng shui
Mm-hmm.
type of living
Yeah.
that I notice it so much where I'll come into a room and, you know, clean it out or clean some old books off or whatever. And then you walk in the room and you're like, oh my gosh, the energy in here is so different. It feels so good, even though I
Mm-hmm.
just changed a few little things. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's how I self care myself when I'm feeling overwhelmed. I know it's a little weird,
Mm-hmm.
but I will go into a space and just spend an hour cleaning it out, getting rid of some
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels so good just to kind of
Mm-hmm.
clean out. And I think as Americans, we tend to just get, consume, consume. And
Mm-hmm.
the stuff just gets so overwhelming, so overwhelming. So, yeah. And then we don't enjoy the things we have, we don't enjoy the beauty around us.
That's right.
So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep, and I'm tucking that away too okay, I'm, looking around my space. I'm like, we're going to do this room if we're going to do all these creative projects, all these dreams that I have, and I have known it. And man, the fall is just plugging right along because I was
Hmm.
like,
Yeah,
I was going to be doing this in August, September, but there's like, yeah, decluttering and then just and playing around with it because I am almost hearing like
yes,
that I can kind of putz around a little bit there, a little bit, and then just kind of
yeah. My
see how
favorite
it
thing is
feels.
to move furniture around, and I do it
Mm,
very frequently. My kids have a joke that every time they come home, something's different. And
mhm.
so now I kind of play off that,
It's
and
like
I'm
a
like,
game, yeah.
oh, the kids are coming into town. What can I move?
They'll be
Hopefully,
like,
they don't listen to
yeah.
this and know that now I know the game.
Uh-huh,
But I'm
uh-huh.
constantly changing things. And oftentimes we think, oh, I don't have the money to change it. Well, there's
Hmm.
so many resources out there that you don't have to spend money.
Hmm.
Or you can sell something on Facebook Marketplace to buy something different. So if something isn't working for your space, don't let money be an excuse. There's so
Hmm.
many ways that you can change it without spending any money or not spending a lot of money. So, and thrifting's cool now. So,
I
Just
know,
go be
I know,
cool.
I know. Finally, I like first started like in the 90s thrifting, and I'm like, yeah, no,
Finally
it's finally
cool.
cool. Um, you just were there. What is something that you wish people knew more about to live their healthiest life? So you already dropped in some tips there,
Yeah.
like to
Yeah.
create the space. Yeah. What do you wish people knew more?
That it really is worth the hard work, to
Mm,
not be afraid of the pain, to not be afraid, get rid of the shame. Shame doesn't have a place in healing,
shame.
and
Mm,
just do it. And if you don't know how to start, look up a coach. Start working with a coach, because oftentimes coaches are a little more accessible than therapists. And
mm-hmm,
then, you know, I, yeah, help is out there. So
mm-hmm,
just seek it, and seek it
mm-hmm,
until you get the help that you need. And I will just put this little bug in the ear. Not every coach is going to be a good fit for you.
mm-hmm,
Not every
mm-hmm.
therapist is going to be a good fit for you.
So
I've
good.
gone to amazing therapists, and I've gone to therapists that weren't really helpful for me.
Mm-hmm,
So just because you've gone to therapy doesn't mean that it was the help that you needed. So
mm-hmm,
seek it out, advocate for yourself, and get the help that you need, because we all can benefit from it. No matter, we're
mm-hmm,
constantly learning and evolving and constantly learning, I think, until the day you die. And I
mm-hmm,
think those are the people that live the best life
mm-hmm,
and can dream the best, to go back
mm-hmm,
to that, because they're learning. I learn
mm-hmm,
stuff from my kids, my adult kids, all the time. I didn't have that same experience growing up where I felt like older generations could learn from younger. And
mm-hmm,
I have been taught so much by my
mm-hmm,
kids.
mm-hmm,
So just, yeah, yeah, be teachable, be open. I think
mm-hmm.
don't pretend like you know it all or you have it all figured out, because nobody does. Yeah.
I haven't found them yet anyway. Yeah, that's for sure.
And if they do, you probably don't want to be their friend.
Yeah, yeah. If they think they do, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A red
Yeah.
flag, red flag.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, just do the work. It's so worth it. So
Hmm.
worth it. You're
Hmm.
worth it. You are
Yeah.
worth the work. Yeah. Yep.
Amy Guthrie, that is so good. That's so good. And I feel like, I mean, folks, is she not a coach? We could hear like that pep talk in there. You're just talking like right to the uh you weren't talking to me, you were talking to the audience.
Mm,
And
mm,
I was just witnessing that. Um yeah, it is so hard to do the work. And I so agree with, and whenever it's something I try to mention to any new patient or client is like, if this is doesn't feel like this should feel like a good fit, you
mm,
should trust me,
mhm,
you should like
mhm.
me. If you don't, no hard feelings.
Yeah.
And please don't think that, as a physical therapist, it was like, please don't think physical therapy isn't going to help you if for whatever reason you don't have a good experience here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing with coaching. So I'm so glad that you shared that, because I think we're still learning kind of our agency of,
Mhm, mhm.
no, thank you for your offering. This is not what I need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not because it's so easy to go black, white, right? And it is
Mhm.
so hard to make the interventions, to seek help, to seek change. Like you're saying, it's so
Yeah. Yeah.
hard. And so it's a lot of people's story, or part of their story is that they tried and they're like, oh, that wasn't it. And then they're like, psh.
Mhm.
For me,
Yeah.
with mental health therapy, it was a long time. And then I would kind of go back like into hiding. It would be like a beat down or something. It's not like
Yeah.
the person injured
Yeah.
me, but it
Yeah.
was just like so as somebody that companions people and things like this, I really, especially increasingly over the years and decades as I've done it, is just real, just even congratulating people for showing up.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
fact that somebody is sitting there with me is blocked out this time. We did the scheduling, they paid the fee, they found me, they like all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
decision making that they had to do to end up right there. But I don't think people understand that, they're just kind
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
feeling themselves as a deficit all the way they have to go to whatever their goal is.
Hmm.
And so I really appreciate you um highlighting like the importance of finding a good fit and um just to help ease a little bit that
Yeah.
uncertainty that people have in navigating finding care. So thank you for that, because I've experienced that a lot in my background in the healthcare setting where,
Yeah.
I could even just say it's interesting you said, that coaching is directed by the client, right? When
Mhm.
I've worked in settings previously when I would just have a casual opener. We're starting to get to know each other, and I say, "What brings you here?" And it's like, "My doctor sent me here." And it's just like,
Huh.
it's like face
Yeah.
palm of like, whoa, there's a huge disconnect of like, but what issues are you having that you saw your doctor that would lead you? Like what in your
Hmm.
life is not,
Hmm.
are you having a hard time with? So I'm clearly very appreciative of that as I
Mm.
expound on that. So, and I
Yeah.
think that's a really great insight. Um, and I just appreciate just that, yeah, that cheerleading energy of it is hard, it is worth
Hmm.
it, and um, I'm so grateful to have spent the time with you today.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for what you bring into the world from the design perspective, and now for folks on their healing journey. And that's how so wonderful that you can have this family practice to do that. That's really exciting. And I can't wait to learn more about that. And I'll definitely be picking my brain and your brain maybe about lighting.
I look
uh,
forward to it. Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for being here. To everybody, may you always see the blessing. Thanks for listening to this episode of the LYHL podcast. I'm so glad you're here. If you liked what you heard, you can find me on Instagram and YouTube at the Elle, as well as on my website, www.theellebetrell.com. Of course, you can find me back here at the next episode of the LYHL podcast. There's numerous ways to support my work so I can keep helping you live your healthiest life. You can do this financially via links on my website or the show notes, by subscribing to the podcast and YouTube channels, by joining my newsletter community, aptly named the LYHL newsletter, by rating the podcast, by sharing with others, those you meet, and participating in coaching sessions. It's my passion to help you live your healthiest life. I'm so glad you're here. I'd love to hear your thoughts about what you're learning and the insights you're gaining from these conversations. May you always see the blessing.